You people always want power you didn't earn. The words hit the tiled conference room like a thrown brick. 3 white officers laughed around the donut tray. One leaned back, combat boots on the glass table. Another stirred his coffee with a plastic knife. The third, Sergeant Kramer, leaned forward, eyeing the quiet black man by the door. The man didn't speak, just adjusted the cuff of his blazer. Crisp navy. Subtle gold pin. No reaction. Kramer squinted. "Hey, pal, this briefing for command." Janitor closet down the hall. That got another laugh. Forks froze midair. The secretary at the back stiffened. Even the printer stopped mid-spool. The black man took one slow step forward, not rushed. Not?
Rattled. Kramer grinned. Lost?
Or just looking for your diversity points? The man's eyes, calm, unreadable, landed on Kramer. Are you always this brave before learning who signs your evaluations? Excuse me? Kramer stood now. You talking like that in my precinct? I'm not here for your precinct. Kramer's nostrils flared. Oh, I see. You're with internal. Or worse, civilian review. Great. Another desk suit pretending he knows what it's like on the streets. The man said nothing, just reached into his jacket pocket. Hands flinched toward holsters. He pulled out a black leather badge case. Let it fall open. Deputy Director Langston Moore, Federal Department of Justice. Silence. Kramer's mouth opened, then closed. I'm here to oversee your precinct's compliance hearing. Moore continued, his voice as calm as a heartbeat. Specifically, its repeated racial misconduct reports, including 2 filed against you, Sergeant. Kramer looked like he'd been slapped. Sir, one of the younger officers tried to step in. Moore's head turned slightly. Not angry, just watching. No need, Moore said smoothly. I prefer actions to apologies. The secretary, Linda, was already fumbling with her notepad. Moore moved to the head of the table. Kramer still hadn't sat down. I assumed you'd be late. Kramer muttered. You assumed wrong, Moore replied. You assumed a lot of things. The coffee-stirring officer leaned to Kramer. What now? We sit, Kramer muttered, jaw clenched. We listen. Moore didn't smile. I won't be repeating myself. Let's begin. He tapped the table once, sharp, final. The badge case remained open beside him like a silent warning. Across the room, no one laughed anymore. You think you can just walk in here and take over? Kramer was leaning forward now, trying to steal back command of the room, his voice low. Controlled rage. Moore didn't even glance up from the file. I didn't walk in. I was sent. Yeah? Kramer snapped. Sent by who exactly? Washington? Or one of those damn oversight committees that wouldn't last 10 minutes on a patrol beat? Moore's tone didn't change. I was sent by a system designed to keep you from thinking you are the system. Someone coughed. Kramer's chair scraped back as he stood. Let me tell you something, sir. We've run this precinct without problems for over 20 years. Now one bad report, and they send in a, he caught himself. Too late. Moore closed the file. I'd love to hear how that sentence ends, Sergeant, for the record. The room froze again. Kramer's jaw shifted, but no sound followed. Moore stood up, calm as ever. You don't like being questioned. That much is clear. But unlike your team, I've already reviewed every complaint filed here since 2014. Want to guess how many named you directly? Kramer didn't answer. 17. A murmur rippled. Linda scribbled. Moore took 2 steps forward. Let's read one together. He lifted a single sheet. Filed by Officer P. Jenkins. During roll call, Sergeant Kramer joked that I was only hired because the department needed someone urban, enough to keep the quota happy. You responded by docking his shifts for the next month. That's internal business, Kramer muttered. It's now federal business, Moore said. You've made sure of that. The door opened. Another officer entered. Late. Kramer pounced. Detective Rhodes. You were on patrol with Jenkins back then, right? Tell him Jenkins was always dramatic. Rhodes paused mid-step. Sir, respectfully, Jenkins recorded that conversation. Kramer froze. What? Rhodes nodded, quiet. He played it for me. You laughed, said it twice. Moore didn't smile, but something flickered behind his eyes. Thank you, Detective, he said. Would you mind joining us? Your name's already on the witness list. Kramer was losing. Air. Moore walked to the whiteboard, uncapped a marker, and wrote, Power isn't who talks loudest. Then he turned, I'm not here to yell, threaten, or intimidate. I'm here to document, that's all. And from what I've seen, documentation might be your biggest weakness. He tapped the marker once against his palm. Kramer clenched his fists. You think they'll believe your report over mine? Moore looked directly at him. They already do. That's why I'm here. Silence. The donut tray sat untouched. The laughter from earlier felt years old. One by one, the officers glanced down. Kramer sat finally. Moore opened the next file. Let's continue. Hey, don't CC anyone on precinct email this week. Not even internal. The whisper shot. Across the hallway like a live wire. Two officers passed folders between them but didn't make eye contact. One of them, nervous, glanced toward the frosted glass conference room. Inside. Langston Moore was still working. Alone. Unbothered. Focused. They'd started calling him the cleaner. Not to his face, Justin mutters between shifts, locker room, corners, hushed messages like, he's here to gut the place. He ain't gonna stop at Kramer. You heard about 3rd Precinct, right? Same guy. 3 resignations in a week. And still, Moore said nothing. He just kept showing up at 7 a.m. sharp, sitting in a different room each day, asking simple questions no one wanted to answer. Who decides the shift rotations? Why are certain names left off patrol logs? Why are these body cams disabled in 5 separate reports? No shouting. No threats. But one by one, lies started choking. Down in the gym locker room, Officer Ruiz pulled open his locker and froze. His name tag was gone, replaced with a handwritten note. Snitch. He peeled it off slowly. Looked around. Empty. Except for one recruit still in Academy Blue sitting quietly on the bench. She didn't look away. Ruiz walked over. You put this here? The recruit, Officer Mendez, shook her head once. Calm. No. But if you're asking if I told Moore about the quota calls? Yeah, I did. Ruiz exhaled. You know they'll freeze you out now, right? She nodded. He looked at her again, young, steady. Then he crumpled the note. Good. Means we're not all cowards. Meanwhile, behind closed blinds in the break room, Kramer leaned toward a private monitor. His lips were tight. Find me something on this Moore guy, he told the man on the other end. Anything. A failed case. A bad arrest. A parking ticket, for God's sake. A pause. Because if we don't stop him now, he's going to flip this whole place upside down. Another pause. No more emails. In person only, he's probably reading half the inbox by now. That night, Moore's shadow moved through the records room. He didn't need anyone's permission anymore. He found what he was looking for in a plain cardboard box labeled Closed 2019. The folder read, Officer P. Jenkins Unexplained Transfer, and inside? Redacted lines, but one name appeared 6 times in margin notes. SGT, Kramer. Moore closed the file slowly. No smile. No surprise. Just confirmation. Then he took a pen and underlined every mention of Kramer in red. Underneath the final one, he wrote, Cross-reference with training complaints. Officer Mendez. Officer Ruiz. He placed the file back in the box. He didn't need to slam the door. The echo of silence was louder than thunder. Effective immediately. We're limiting his access, Captain. Holbrook's voice was low but firm. Kramer stood behind him like a shadow. Langston Moore scanned the letterhead slowly. DOJ seal. Internal Affairs. Folded once, hand-delivered. This came through? Moore asked. Holbrook nodded. Anonymous complaint. Says you're intimidating. Staff. Creating a hostile environment. Moore didn't blink. Which staff? They didn't list names. Of course not. Kramer cleared his throat. It's serious, Langston. This kind of accusation can derail a federal inquiry. Moore's eyes flicked to him. You practicing law now, Sergeant? Kramer grinned. Just protecting my people. Moore folded the letter. Perfectly. From the truth? Holbrook raised a hand. Gentleman enough. I'm not choosing sides. But we are suspending your interview authority until this is cleared. Moore leaned back. Calm. You think a form stops this process? That a complaint with no names means anything? Kramer smirked. It means people are scared. Maybe for good reason. Moore stood, slowly. Let me be clear. If your goal was to trigger oversight, I welcome it. I wrote that protocol. He stepped forward. If your goal was to slow me down? Pause. Now I know where to dig next. That. Afternoon, 3 of Moore's calendar meetings were canceled. No explanation. The files he requested? Suddenly misplaced. Printer access revoked. Even the coffee machine malfunctioned. When he entered the lounge. And yet Moore didn't flinch. He started handwriting. Reports. Knocking on doors instead of emailing. He began reading personnel files aloud to himself. In open spaces, SGT Kramer, 2 commendations. And 1 sealed complaint dated March 2017. Interesting. Every word was a dagger. Meanwhile, Kramer met quietly with Holbrook behind closed doors. You said you'd keep him on a leash, Kramer snapped. Holbrook rubbed his temples. I gave you the HR window. It bought you time. He's not slowing down. Then maybe stop giving him more ammo, Holbrook said sharply. This isn't some rookie you can scare off with locker room jokes. Kramer's voice dropped. You think he's clean? Holbrook looked up. I think he's smarter than you. Downstairs, Officer Mendez received a summons to the admin office. When she entered, 2 HR reps were already seated. We've had a report, the woman said flatly. Says you've been discussing confidential matters with unauthorized personnel. Mendez's eyebrows rose. You mean DOJ Deputy Director Moore? A pause. He's investigating the department, she added. How is that unauthorized? The reps exchanged a glance. We're just following up. For protocol. Mendez sat back. If I'm being punished for telling the truth, maybe write that on the record too. Then she stood and walked out. Back upstairs. Moore sat at a window desk with a red pen and a stack of handwritten notes. The top sheet read, HR weaponization pattern. Precinct 4, 7, and now 11. He circled the words, anonymous complaint filed within 48 hours of pattern disclosure. Moore didn't shout. Didn't paste. He just underlined one more name, Captain Holbrook, then quietly whispered to himself, almost there. Wait, are these real numbers? Detective Rhodes leaned closer to the precinct projector. Langston. Moore nodded once. Pulled from your own shift reports. 42 stops in April. 39 of them involved Black or Latino civilians. Rhodes swallowed. That can't be right. Here's the body cam log, cross-checked. He clicked once. The screen lit up name, time, location. Race. Rhodes looked down. A younger officer in the back muttered, we were told to watch the corners harder after roll call. Another voice added, "Sarge used to say, 'Don't come back empty-handed.' That counts, right?" Moore didn't speak. He let the silence stretch until Rhodes finally said it. "We checked the numbers. He's right." The sentence hit the room like a dropped baton. Moore turned back toward the group. "I'm not here to destroy careers. I'm here to expose systems. You chose to follow one. I chose to trace it." Meanwhile, Kramer burst into Holbrook's office. "He's spinning data now? That's how we're letting this play out?" Holbrook didn't look up from his screen. He showed raw reports. "No spin. You signed half of them. I was doing my job." "Then you should have done it clean." Kramer's eyes narrowed. "He's turning the team against me." "No," Holbrook said quietly. "You did that yourself." That afternoon, Moore entered the break room. It used to go silent when he walked in. Now? Two officers nodded. Another slid a file toward him. "You should see this. It's not in the archive folder." Moore opened it. Inside were 3 misconduct memos, 1 unsigned, 2 sealed, all linked to Kramer. He looked up at the officer. "Why?" "Now?" She hesitated. "Because you're not like the others. You don't just come to make noise. You come to fix what no one else will touch." Moore nodded. Then he said it softly. "Thank you." Later that evening, Moore sat alone in the records room. Same seat. Same sharp posture. A news article popped up on his tablet. DOJ quietly investigates major city precincts in patterned. Abuse review. No names. Just movement. His movement. But he didn't smile. Instead, he pulled out his notebook. Wrote a single line. "Power doesn't knock. It arrives without asking." And then he got back to work. "Say it." Moore's voice was quiet, razor sharp. The briefing room was packed. Standing room only. Every officer who'd pretended not to care was now watching, phones muted, breath held. Kramer stood across from Moore, red-faced, pacing. "I've served this department for 23 years, Kramer barked. "You think some pencil pusher from D.C. is going to walk in and smear me with cherry-picked reports and rookie sob stories?" Moore didn't flinch. "You haven't been smeared. You've been revealed." Kramer slammed the desk. "You're twisting this entire precinct against me." "No, I gave them facts." "You gave them reasons to believe those facts." Kramer turned to the room. "Let me ask you all something. Has he walked a beat with you? Been out there when it's dark and backup's 10 minutes late? Has he ever had to make a split-second call without some Fed watching over his shoulder?" No one answered. Kramer's voice cracked. "We're under siege and you're helping him." Moore's voice cut in, clean and cold. "No one's under siege, Sergeant. You're just finally under scrutiny." A hush dropped. One of the junior officers whispered to another, "He's done." But Kramer wasn't finished. He stepped toward Moore. Too close. Finger pointed, breathing heavy. "You want the truth?" He snapped. "Fine. I called Jenkins a token. I said Ruiz only got promoted so we'd look woke. I said Mendez would never make detective unless the papers needed a photo op." Silence. Silence. "Happy now?" he hissed. "You got your big confession. Go ahead, take it to your Washington desk and bury another white cop so you can look righteous." Moore didn't move. He just asked, "Was that being recorded?" From the back of the room, Officer Mendez stood. "Yes." She held up her phone. Red light blinking. Kramer's face drained. Moore turned toward the captain. "Chain of command review begins now." Holbrook swallowed hard. I agree." Kramer stammered. You can't let him." "You did it to yourself," Holbrook muttered, "in front of everyone." Outside the room, news traveled fast. "He really said all that? On tape? They're filing charges?" Some officers looked shaken. Some looked relieved. But one thing was clear: something broke in that room. Not just Kramer. the shield around him. Later, Moore stood in the hallway alone, watching officers pass by. No fear in their eyes now. Mendez approached him. "I've never seen anyone stay that calm," she said. Moore replied without looking at her, "Because truth doesn't yell, it waits." She nodded once, then left him. To the silence. He doesn't even need a badge to lead. The words came from Officer Ruiz, whispered over a cup of burnt precinct coffee. Detective Rhodes nodded slowly. He earned it. Without yelling, without drawing a weapon, just with facts. Across the hallway, Langston Moore walked past, calm, unreadable. This time, heads didn't turn away. They nodded. That afternoon, the precinct email lit up. Subject line: precinct-wide sensitivity and patterned. Enforcement workshop, mandatory, below. It, instructor, Deputy Director Langston Moore, Doge date. This Friday location, main briefing room. Mendez read it twice, then smiled. Meanwhile, Holbrook stepped into Moore's office with an envelope in hand. "It's from upstairs," he said. "Not just Doge's City Hall, too." Moore opened it. Inside, an invitation to address the City Oversight Committee on Racial Policy Enforcement, LAV, broadcasted. Full record. "Looks like you've got more eyes now," Holbrook added quietly. Moore didn't smile, just said, "Good." Then he closed the envelope. Later that day, a whiteboard appeared in the locker room. Anonymous. No name. No announcement. It read, "Officers you trust," with 2 columns. Name, reason not trusted. Someone had already filled in the first few lines. And under name, Moore stood up without backing down. Mendez told the truth when it mattered. Rhodes broke silence. Kramer's name was nowhere. And that, somehow, said more. That night, Moore stood alone on the precinct roof. The city pulsed below. Not in chaos. In calm. Mendez joined him, quietly. "I thought when I spoke up," she said, "I'd lose everything." "You lost fear," Moore said. She blinked. "And you? What did you lose?" He looked out. Time. Then added, "But I'm getting it back. One policy at a time." Just before leaving, Moore paused at the front desk. Linda, the secretary, looked up. "I never said thank you," she said. "You don't have to. I want to." He gave her a single nod. Then walked out, not triumphant, just steady, and behind him, the station held a little more silence, but this time, it felt like respect. They said one man couldn't change a system. The reporter's voice was smooth, polished, glowing under studio lights. Behind her, the screen flashed a still photo of Langston Moore walking out of the precinct. No riots, no protests, just quiet federal work, a paper trail, and now, precinct in transformation. Cut to Holbrook at a podium. "We're implementing new anti-bias protocols starting next quarter. We've also updated our complaint review system to include 30 checks." Then to a young female officer in plainclothes, "We weren't waiting for a savior, but he showed us we weren't crazy." Moore watched none of it. He sat in a city conference room reviewing a draft titled "Departmental Realignment Through Data-Backed Oversight." His name was on the cover. He didn't ask for that either. Beside him, a state legal director asked, "Would you consider leading a statewide training series? We could get you a team media clearance rollout plan." "No." The D man blinked. "No?" Moore looked up. "Give me precincts, not podiums." Back at Precinct 11, the changes were subtle but visible. The Trusted Officer Board had grown. Internal complaint forms were no longer locked in cabinets. Mendez now had her own desk, with a nameplate. Even Rue's once silent was leading morning roll call. And on the wall near the break room, someone posted a quote, Justice doesn't knock. It walks in and stays standing. No one dared take it down. Meanwhile, Kramer was gone, suspended, awaiting formal review. No one asked where he went. No one missed the sound of boots on tables. Holbrook visited Moore again. This time with coffee, no folder, no briefing. You're aware the mayor's office wants you on the civil rights panel? Moore took the cup. They can send paperwork. Holbrook hesitated. You know, when you walked in, I thought you were another suit coming to stir things up and disappear. I know, Moore said. You didn't. Moore sipped once. I don't believe in disappearing. Later, Linda showed Moore the precinct bulletin board. Photos had been added. Officers graduating training. Mendez at her first court testimony. Ruiz leading traffic policy discussion. A newspaper clipping about Moore's reforms. Some of the rookies say they joined because of what happened here. Linda said. Moore nodded once, then left a note on the board. Don't thank me. Just don't stop. That night, the DOJ sent a message. Clearance granted. Precinct 11 officially compliant. But Moore didn't celebrate. He just opened a new file, Precinct 14. Pattern complaints. Same handprint. He circled a name, then quietly packed his briefcase. They're saying he lied about everything. Ruiz said it quietly, staring at his phone. On screen, a breaking news banner. DOJ official under fire for misconduct allegations. Mendez looked up from across the room. What? Anonymous sources claim he forged reports, intimidated witnesses, pushed fake data. Mendez grabbed her phone. Same headline. Same smear. Her stomach dropped. Ruiz stood. They're trying to erase everything he built. Upstairs, Moore sat at his desk. Alone. No panic. No calls. He read the article twice. He recognized the strategy, the timing, the fingerprints. He even recognized the journalist one known for off-the-record favors. A knock. Holbrook entered, jaw tense. They're coming for your badge, Langston. Moore looked up. They'll have to spell my name right first, Holbrook sighed. We can issue a press release. No. Then what? Moore slid a folder across the desk. Send them this instead. Inside, every audit file time-stamped. Every memo cross-referenced. Every signed testimonial, all clean. All real. The smear spread fast. Online trolls. Comment sections. Right-wing blogs. Then something changed. The public started pushing back. Not the DOJ. Not the mayor. The community. First, a letter to the editor. I'm a resident of Precinct 11. My family was scared to report anything for years. Langston Moore changed that. You don't get to lie about him just because he didn't play dirty. Then a video clip. Officer Mendez standing outside the precinct. We saw what he did here. He made it safer. For everyone. These lies? Their noise. Then Ruiz. Live radio. Voice trembling but firm. I called him a snitch once. Then I watched him save this department from itself. The smear couldn't hold, because this time the silence didn't protect the guilty. It defended the honest. That evening, Moore walked into the station. Every head turned. No one spoke. Then Rhodes stepped forward. Saluted. Followed by Mendez. Then Ruiz. Then Linda, one by one, until the lobby echoed with the sound of standing respect. Moore nodded once, then spoke. Lies only. Last when truth stays silent. Thank you for not staying silent. That night, the article was quietly retracted, buried under editorial error. No apology. Didn't matter, because by now his reputation was no longer written by outsiders. It was engraved in every room he walked into. You're not really leaving, are you? Officer Mendez stood in the hallway, eyes wide, hands tucked in her vest pockets. Moore finished zipping his bag. My job here is done, but the city's finally listening. That's the point, he said, locking eyes with her. They're listening to you now. That morning, the precinct bulletin board had changed. Someone pinned a final photo at the top. Moore walking out of the courtroom last month, calm, pressed behind him. Papers in hand, below it, a handwritten note. He came in silent. He left. With the system louder, Precinct 11 in the briefing room, the captain gathered the staff, some rookies. Some veterans. Linda stood near the door, clutching a file of thank you letters addressed to Moore, none of which he'd acknowledge. Of course. Holbrook cleared his throat. I've served 30 years in this department, and I've never seen someone change a room just by walking into it. He turned, but Moore didn't want a plaque or a ceremony. He wanted this. He pointed to the wall behind them, where the precinct's first ever equity policy charter now hung signed. Sealed, operational. Ruiz muttered quietly. Damn right he didn't want a plaque. People chuckled. Even Moore, from the back, smirked. Just once. Later, Moore stood in the parking lot, bag on his shoulder. Car engine still cold. Rhodes approached. You forgot something. Moore turned. It was a badge. A gift. Black matte finish. No department name, just one word engraved. Still standing. Moore held it for a second, then handed it back. Give it to someone who thinks they can't. That evening, Mendez led her first solo team briefing. She wore a navy blazer over her uniform, same gold pin. When she spoke, no one interrupted. When she gave orders, no one hesitated. She ended with a quote she didn't read from a page. Justice doesn't yell, it waits, then it acts. And in the back of the room, an old seat remained empty. Not in sadness, in honor. 1 week later, Moore walked through a new precinct. Different city. Same silence. Same tension. He didn't flinch. He opened his briefcase. And began again.